to share about the trip.
I thank the woman from Washington both for giving me this time, but also for your leadership on this and other issues. So thank you. So beside me is a photograph of myself. Avi Zimmerman is the head of the Judea-Samaria Chamber of Commerce, an Israeli Jew. Sheikh Ashraf Jabari, a Palestinian businessman. The gentlewoman from Washington, the gentlewoman from Missouri, and the gentleman from Tennessee. Ms. Wagner and Dr. Rowe joined Ms. Morris Rogers and me on this incredible trip. We're standing in the Sheikh's home in Hebron. The Sheikh is a former security advisor to the Palestinian Authority and an incredible businessman. Now, before I get back to that meeting, I want to make sure that we begin to make clear to everybody in America that much of what we have learned, or believe we have learned, about what's going on in Israel between Israelis and Palestinians is not true. What we learn, both from Sheikh Jabari and from others, is that something new and exciting is happening between the Israelis and the Palestinians in Israel. You know, there's this idea out there that the Israelis and the Palestinians have been fighting one another for years. That's not true. The truth of the matter is, after the Romans expelled most of the Jews from Israel in the 1st and 2nd century A.D., there remained a small number of Jews in what was known as Israel and then later on as the province of Palestine. And then over years, some would creep back in, but there was a relatively small number of Jews in that land. And they lived in peace with their Arab neighbors. It wasn't until the 20th century when large numbers of Jews began to move into that area from Europe and the U.S. and other places that we began to see some clashes between the Arabs that lived in that area and the Jews that were moving there. In 1948, when Israel proclaimed itself to be a state, there was an unfortunate war between them, their Arab neighbors, and many of the Arab countries that surrounded them. As a result of that, a state was formed with true territories, but there was a problem between Israel and Jordan, which was one of the countries that they fought. And in order to decide who lived where, they took a green pen and wrote on a map a line, and it was called the Green Line. Jordan existed or had control on the east side of that green line, Israel on the west. A second unfortunate war occurred in 1967, the Six-Day War, which many of us remember. As a result of that war, Israel was able to take control of all of the area that's now within Israel on the east side of the Green Line. And those two wars and what came out of them is where a lot of the problems between Palestinians and the Israelis started. It's not ancient. It's not built into their genes. It's not something that can't be overcome. So let me go back to this picture. Avi Zimmerman, as I said, is an Israeli Jew, and Sheikh Jabari is a Palestinian Muslim, standing next to one another in his home in Hebron. We actually heard from them and other Israelis and other Palestinians about their desires and their efforts to work together in business and industry and economics. And it's bringing people together. The day before we visited the Sheikh, we were in a town in the northern part of Israel, in what Israel calls Samaria, called Ariel. In Ariel, there are two parks, two industrial parks, that have 209 different manufacturing companies in them. Most of the people working in those manufacturing factories are Palestinians, and they make, on average, 4 times as much as they could make if they were working somewhere else in what we unfortunately call the West Bank, but was really not the West Bank. It's good for those Palestinians to make that much money. It's good for them to be able to take advantage of the miracle of the Israeli economy. And giving them that opportunity so that they can have a better life for them and their families is hope. Sheikh Jabari and what he's trying to do is hope. And what the people in Israel need more than anything else is hope. Perhaps our struggles over the last 20 years to create a two-state solution there has blinded us from the fact that this is really about people. It's not about lines drawn on a piece of paper that we can't seem to get a resolution to. And those people, if they're allowed to live and work together as they want to, maybe they'll find peace on their own without some push from the rest of us, which seems to be getting us nowhere. At any rate, I hope that we in this country and we in this Congress can do everything in our power to help these good people grow economically in their businesses, but also find that peace that only people-to-people actions can find for us all. So I thank the gentlewoman, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of this special order.
It's great.